The Weird Sisters stand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement in the US, at home here in Australia, and all over the world. It is not enough to be not racist, we must be anti-racist. And we acknowledge that the problem is not isolated to America. We encourage you at home to educate yourselves on these injustices. There have been 437 Aboriginal deaths in police custody since the Royal Commission of 1991. There have been no convictions for these crimes. You can find resources and donation links on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/WeirdSistersPodcast. Black Lives Matter.
Hello team! So our first story this week is pretty heavy and might not be something that all our listeners want to hear. It does centre around animal abuse and it is very upsetting. We struggled to get through this story ourselves and we did debate not including it. But we decided that these sort of things should definitely be spoken about and we would like to give you the option. So if you would rather skip, that's cool. Go ahead to the 37-minute mark. I'll put another little marker there so you can be sure that you've missed everything terrible. And you can hear our other two excellent stories for this week. Thanks. Bye.
Hello.
Awesome. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. My name is Tay. And I am the paint can tied to the ceiling that Macaulay Culkin swings into Joe Pesci's face. Revenge!
Revenge. I am Laura, and I am the 5 weeks of depression washing that's been sitting on your couch waiting for you to fold it and put it away.
Too real, man.
It's COVID's revenge.
F in the chat, F in the chat.
And, like ice cream and revenge, Lacey is a dish best served cold. Yay!
Yay! And today we have a very special guest.
That's right, I'm back. I'm Lauren, and I'm Vincent Price's cracker hairline.
Oh, that really thin
She's
moustache.
back!
Oh,
Funny. The little pencil
Yeah.
moustache.
I think Vincent Price is hot. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Dude,
exactly what we're talking about.
excellent slice of man candy.
It's a
Excellent.
good-looking man.
We like him creepy. We like him creepy here at the Weird Sisters. Welcome, everyone. Long time no record.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Glad to be back.
because last week
Thank you.
we did our Vault episode.
Yes. The
Finally.
hidden episode.
How long have we been sitting on that for?
We
Oh,
recorded it.
many
We
a
recorded
moon.
it 2 days before I went into hospital in January.
Oh.
Is that, yeah. Because then it was re-recorded several times.
It was
I was going to say, that's only a couple of months. And I was like, no, it's
6
not.
months.
6
Yep.
months.
Jesus. Look at that. Classic pre-COVID
Yeah.
ones. We hope you all
Yeah.
enjoyed that. Today we are back with fresh content, fresh recording. Theme this week, revenge stories.
Dun, dun, dun.
How do we feel about revenge? I love a bit of revenge. Love a good revenge
Love
narrative.
revenge.
I'm very into women's revenge films in horror. I think they're a lot of fun. I know some of them are like way too exploitative, but they're really fun. I like them.
The ones from the 70s are like top notch. Again, like I think I've mentioned in previous episodes, like Last House on the Left fucked me up as a kid, but it's very cathartic as well.
It's a good time. It makes me feel good about the world.
Alrighty. Who's got a story for us first?
I will start today. I believe mine's the more recent of us all, but mine is pretty sad. So let's prepare. Let's take a moment. Get your tissues ready if you don't have them already.
Jesus, that depression washing has really gotten to you, man.
It really has, and I am going to stand by it.
As long as it doesn't grow a pair of horns, we'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Oh fuck, tusks! It has tusks because I'm doing Tyke the elephant.
What is that?
Oh
Oh
god.
god.
Trigger
Oh,
warning.
God, if
Trigger
you
warnings. Do
don't
them
know.
now.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, this one needs a big old trigger warning. So I am covering a couple of other big names in this field as well, but we'll start with Tyke, and we'll follow her story the most.
Okay.
So, 1973, baby wild African elephant, well, wild African bush elephant more specifically, is captured in Mozambique and shipped to USA for circus performances. She is purchased by the Hawthorne Corporation. In 1994, they are one of the largest owners of wild performing animals in North America. And they lease elephants and trainers out to American circuses. So they're like the boys on the back end. So, 20th of August 1994 in Hawaii. Audiences of thousands come to watch a Circus International performance and witness strange sounds and a large shape moving behind the big top tent entrance before an elephant emerges, kicking and dragging what looks like a rag doll with it. It turns out to actually be one of her grooms. So his name I will come to later because I haven't put it earlier in my notes. That's really sloppy, I'm sorry. But her trainer, Alan Campbell, attempts to stop her but is also picked up and trampled. Tyke the elephant, which is what she has been called by Hawthorne Corporation, rears up and lands on the worker with the base of her trunk, which is basically like a very strong part of their head.
It's all muscle.
So screaming crowds run from the tent as workers try to drag the trampled bodies away from the elephant, and Tyke escapes from the tent, trampling the crowd as it goes. So there's blood all over the floor of the circus tent. 2 people are completely crushed. 37-year-old Alan Campbell, the trainer, dies trying to get Tyke away from his assistant. And 9 people are injured in total over the course of her rampage. So Tyke runs through the city, chasing people and running in frightened circles. A civilian who is a publicist called Steve Hirano tries to close her into a chain-link car yard, and she smashes the fence open and attacks him directly, beating him again with her trunk against the ground and kicking him. Police...
That's calculated.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, he does not. He's fine. So, look, probably was injured, but Steve Hirano is not important in this story anymore.
Okay.
So police fire on the elephant and Tyke runs away, but she has already been hit by bullets. SWAT and police teams and fire trucks assemble as hundreds of civilians watch on. Circus officials apparently try to tranquilize her and fail. Tyke is shot multiple times in waves and does not die immediately as crowds of people look on and sob and pray.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Why didn't you just leave it into... And she escaped into the Hawaiian forest and
because I fucking wish that happened and it didn't.
Oh, no.
I was a wreck doing this story. There's videos. There's a lot of videos.
You always seem to get the stories with the graphic imagery. It's very much available online. Oh dear.
I think my search history is fucked and it starts recommending really messed up shit to me.
The CIA agent that watches you is like, what the fuck is up here?
Shout out to Steve, my boy.
he's like, I can't watch this bitch anymore. I'm getting sad.
Yeah. He is taking some care leave soon. I wonder why. It's because he watches fucking elephant get shot. So, yeah, the handler, who I mentioned at the beginning, his name is actually Dallas Beckwith. So he's initially attacked, but he survives. He has no broken bones or internal injuries, only scrapes and superficial wounds. If you watch the video, that's fucking astounding. I can't, like, the attack is very graphic. There's a documentary that I watch primarily for my research called Tyke Elephant Outlaw. And I highly recommend it. It's really good. You can rent it on YouTube for $3.99. And the damage that she did to Dallas and the damage that she did to Alan, when you watch the videos, you're like, both of them are dead. There's no way either of them survived. Like, she's railing on them. So in the aftermath of the whole situation, Tyke's owner, Junior Caneo Jr., no idea if that's how you say his surname, but everyone said it different in the...
Which means nobody knows how it's done.
Well, he did not give an interview. None of the people from the Hawthorne Corporation sat for this documentary, but basically he claims that Tyke was never a problem before. So now we move on to her trainers, and these are direct quotes from 3 of the people that worked with her. "She is not good for this. Don't take Tyke on the road. She shouldn't be doing this." And I would argue that you can say that about any fucking animal. They shouldn't be entertaining us for the masses in this way. But apparently Tyke was particularly fucking bad at this. So Tyrone Taylor, which was one of her last trainers before Alan, claimed that Tyke was really difficult. he actually removed her one remaining tusk to make her easier to handle. And the tusk that he shows you in the documentary that he removed is only a couple of inches long. Like, it's not a full elephant tusk as you think of it. And a lot of the elephants that he was working with do have their tusks still. But he basically said that every time he would try to interact with her, she would touch him first with that tusk and then lean into it, sort of as a way to test.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and they're obviously very intelligent animals. Like, they know what they're doing. So we also have one of those quotes from John Walker, who was another one of her trainers with the Hawthorne Corporation, and Sally Joseph, who was an elephant handler and compound manager who took care of breeding pools, etc. She wouldn't even get in a room with her elephants when Tyke was with her, because Tyke would charge her. And basically all of his elephants, all of Kaneo's elephants, were known as bad elephants with bad dispositions in the industry. So the African and Asian elephants, Tyke was African and was temperamental, touchy, and seemed to expect discipline before it happened. The elephants for the Hawthorne Corporation, no matter where they were always lined up and chained together to a bar for 22 hours of the day unless they were participating in training. So the only times they're not chained to a spot in a room directly next to other elephants, who they may or may not like, which is something that's very important. Like, you can't just chain them up next to each other. If you've tried to do that with two dogs that don't know each other, you'll know that animals don't fucking like it.
A mess.
Have emotions and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're beaten in videos. You can see them on the documentary. You can also just see them on YouTube if you Google anything to do with elephants and the Hawthorne Corporation or just circuses. You'll probably find some. But basically she was super heavily disciplined and she fought against it constantly. So, speaking of never a problem, Tyke was fantastic, perfect elephant. 16 months before Honolulu in Altoona, Pennsylvania, she burst out of the doors of a mosque. She literally burst out of them. She did $12,000 worth of damage to the building. Yeah, and this is in, obviously, 1990s money. Another trainer who was assisting Tyrone, who didn't usually work with him, was apparently antagonizing Tyke. She left, which is something that she apparently did all the time. When she was upset, she would just leave, which is good, in my opinion, because that's what I do when I handle bad situations.
Remove yourself.
Yep, bye. So Tyke did that. Pretty hard when you're a massive elephant that weighs 10,000 pounds, though. People will notice. So she left, and the police aimed guns at her because she literally walked out of a mosque. And Tyrone, Tyrone, who was the trainer, would not step back out of the way, though, and that's probably one of the only reasons why she wasn't shot there and then. He did manage to walk her back to the barn, and no one was hurt. Everyone was fine. It was just the physical damage of the building that happened that day. So, according to Ed Stewart, who is the guy who runs PAWS, which is Performing Animal Welfare Society, he basically takes care of retired performing animals and rescues them, because obviously they can't be returned to the wild. African elephants are particularly dangerous compared with Asian elephants. I don't know about that because, well, obviously he's going to know better than me. I don't know shit. I've seen elephants at the zoo, that's it. But there's some suggestion that they're just both as bad, because you shouldn't work with them probably, because we do look at two other elephants and both of them are Asian elephants. But basically, after Altoona, Tyrone tried to tell the circus that Tyke was not good for performing, and his advice was dismissed. He was told just to be firmer with her. Hawthorne had a reputation of being super heavy-handed in their training. They used bull hooks, which is like a long, thick stick with a hook on the end. It's about...
What do they do with them?
Well, if you think about like how an elephant's body sort of looks, basically what they do is they will jam the hook into their ear or pull it around their ear to get them to direct, like, sort of. Yeah, so basically...
looks like a little scythe almost.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, that's a really good description.
Today. It
They
sucks, yeah. Well, animal tourism.
Yep. Yes, exactly. It's not just elephants they used on, but they are most commonly associated with them. But yeah, it's basically to direct them, and the way that the trainers talk about how they use them is if it's in one hand, it's present. If it's in the other hand, the elephant knows that it's going to get used against them, and it's supposed to be like a negative association of which hand it's in, and they apparently try not to use it too much, but they definitely fucking do. So they use the bullhook, and one of the things that Sally Joseph was told is if they are afraid of you, they won't do anything. So they basically, at this Hawthorne Corporation, try to instruct through fear. And Sally said that Asian elephants will wait for years to kill you. Africans too, but apparently Asians are particularly, they hold grudges. But elephants will remember you forever, good or bad, and they're going to remember what you did to them.
Like that Agatha Christie story.
Yeah, elephant never forgets.
Yeah.
It's fucked up. So they totally
So-
knew that this was like probably gonna happen, but they just ignored it.
Well, this is like far from the only time this shit's happened. Elephants are actually responsible for a lot of deaths, even just in Africa, like wild elephants that go and just decide to fuck up villages. Like, they are vengeful animals when they're pissed off. They will hunt people down. They are known to basically go and like find lion prides and like kill the cops. Giraffes do that too, though. Yeah,
Sinister.
it's a thing. It's a thing. But yeah, like elephants are clever creatures, and they know that something's going to be a threat to them at some point, and they get mad about it. So yeah, we do have another incident though before Honolulu. So in July of 1993, so this is less than a year before this sort of goes down, or just over a year, excuse me, in Dakota, Tyke attacked a groom called Mike. She knocked him into a dumpster with her trunk and ground him into it.
Ground. Strong verb.
Very strong verb.
Yep. She continually pulled him back whenever he tried to get away and would kick him.
Oh my gosh.
So she knew what she was doing. She did not like Mike. So Tyrone stuck the bullhook into her ear and had to chase her through the fairground to recapture her. He did manage to recapture her peacefully, and after that he wanted to stop using her altogether, and that's when he stopped working with her in the circus. So after that, Alan Campbell comes on the scene, and Tyke is put on a ship for 4 days from Los Angeles, and she goes with her new trainer. Basically, Alan is told by everyone, Tyrone, Sally, every other groom that's ever worked with her, don't take Tyke. Don't take Tyke on the road. But the Hawthorne Corporation didn't ever offer Alan the option of not taking her. And the way that the bookings worked were pretty much that when you made a booking, you booked how many elephants you wanted. And if they only had 4 elephants, you're going to get Tyke if she's one of them, whether or not she's good to use or not. So,
Jesus.
yeah, exactly. So Tyke goes to Honolulu. The footage is terrible. If you can stomach it, I actually really think that you should watch this, because it talks a lot about how only in the 70s we were really, really speciesist towards animals. Like, I hate using that word because I know Peter trots it out all the fucking time. And some of the stuff that I watched obviously did come from Peter, and some of the things that I read, and I don't think they're a fantastic organisation, but it is really fucked up. There's obviously an intelligence in these creatures, and I am not surprised that any of this happened, and it happens all the fucking time. If you Google elephants gone rogue, there's like Wikipedia pages set up to lists of this happening.
Lists.
Yeah. So she kicks the groom for a significant distance. Like I said before, she comes out of the tent flaps to the main big top arena, kicking the groom before her. She uses her face, like I said before, the base of her trunk to literally grind him into the floor. She also does this to Alan. Alan tries to get her away from Beckwith's body. She's trying to get to the groom. She doesn't really seem to care that it's Alan, because there's a point where both of them are motionless on the ground, and she stands up over their bodies with her ears flared, and behaviorists say that she's listening for other elephants. She's listening for the ones out the back. And she looks like she doesn't know what she's going to do. But then Beckworth, the groom that she's been going after, moves the slightest amount. Like, he moves so small that you can barely sort of see it. And it doesn't even look like she's looking at him. It looks like she's turned away from him, and she sees it, and she goes straight back to him and tramples him immediately. Like, straight over again. Doesn't look at the other body in front of her. Doesn't look at any of the thousands of spectators that are literally screaming and streaming from the room. She goes straight for Beckworth. So she boots the groom across the room, grinds him into the floor again, turns, and then runs out of the arena. There's shitloads of people around her as well. Like, it's weird. Some guy tries to run after her, and you're like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? What are you gonna do? And she doesn't pay attention to any of them. Like, once she's sort of done with Beckworth and then Alan, she just runs off, and she runs straight out into the street. And there's some people that were there on the day that talk about, like, being there and having experienced it. And one man had his children with him, with his wife, and was running away, and had picked up the kids, turned around after he heard a boom behind him, because she smashed her way out of shit. And there's this elephant standing, like, and you look at the place, because they go to it, how close she must have been to them.
Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't get trampled because she turned away and ran elsewhere. Like, she wasn't trying to just murder people. She went after very specific people, and then she tried to run away. She tried to get away. So she runs down the road, and you can watch all this footage of her running through the streets of Hawaii, which is a city. Like, it's, I know when you say Hawaii, some people think of fucking, like, just golden beaches. No,
We think
there's
of Blue
cities
Crush.
too. Yeah. So, she's running down the streets of a city, and she's got this fucking horrible, stupid, big top headdress on with a gold star on it, and it's pink, and these stupid pink booty things that they put on her. She's hounded by cars, and then she's shot at multiple times, like people with shotguns and rifles and pistols and just police officers. There's alarms going off, there's sirens going off. She's shot 87 times in the face, eyes, and body. And she finally collapses and dies, and she's shot dead in the street.
Oh,
So they...
this is-
yeah.
Yeah, dude,
Yup.
get out of your house.
Doesn't end here.
Get out of your house.
I can't. I'm afraid to go out there now.
The COVID is still out there.
I know. But even worse, there are people out there now.
Hey, it's very busy. Yuck.
It's very busy. It's very scary. I don't like it. I'm happy in here. But I'm also not happy learning about sad elephants. But now you get to hear about it as well.
Share the load.
Yeah. So they take her body to a quarantine station. She was born in 1973. She lived till 1994. The Ringling Brothers Circus, basically, after this all went down, people were fucking upset. No shit.
Yeah.
There was a lot of activism specifically around Tyke, obviously in Honolulu, but also elsewhere in the world. And the Ringling Brothers Circus organised for opposition protests for people that were like, no, don't destroy it for the kids. Leave elephants. They're here for us. Like, what?
No.
So that's a time. That's a fucking time watching those people do that. Some of them were paid, so, you know. Yeah. So the Council of Honolulu City hold hearings to ban all animal performances, specifically exotic animal performances. The bill to ban the animal performances is defeated by one vote, which has a lot to do with money. But, yeah, exactly. But there never was another elephant in Honolulu to this day. So they've never performed there again, which is good. Because
Good.
hopefully people fucking remember the last time one did. Alan Campbell's autopsy revealed that he died from severe internal injuries. So major skull and chest fractures. It was also determined that Campbell had cocaine and alcohol in his system at the time of his death. The 70s.
The 70s, yeah.
The 70s in a circus.
Oh, that's all you'd eat, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. That's your diet. So the complaints have been found of animal abuse being filed against Campbell from the late 1980s when he operated an elephant and camel ride concession in Denver. So, you know, Campbell's not completely innocent in this either, but he did try to defend Beckworth, so take what you will from that.
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Not taking anything from that.
Didn't really feel much for him either, I'm sorry. But, you know, it's the 70s. People didn't think about it the way they do now, so who knows? Maybe he would have been a good dude who was against animal abuse had he been born later. Who knows? Anyway. So in 2004, the Hawthorne Corporation is charged with multiple violations of the Animal Welfare Act and ordered to release all of its elephants to approved facilities. That's only in 2004. That's 10 years after Tyke. It's not that long ago. Like, we're in 2020, and I keep thinking it's only 2014. I know it's not. I just think it is.
Time doesn't exist.
It doesn't. It's a construct. But yeah, so that's not that fucking long ago. Like, that's within our lifetimes that this happened. You know, I'm pretty sure when I was a kid, I went to a circus or two where there were performing animals. This obviously still on today with horses and camels and alpacas and things like that. But yeah, it's just so strange to think about the fact that, like, this has been acceptable since we've been born. Yeah. But all of those elephants did get released. Many of them went to PAWS, the organisation I mentioned earlier. Some elephants had actually never been able to walk on grass at all when they were received. They didn't know they could eat the grass. So they can literally never go back into the wild. They will die in captivity, unfortunately. But 300 cities and 20 countries have banned the use of elephant performances, so, or use of performing elephants, which is good. However, now we move on.
No, dude.
If I had to think about it and hear about it now, everyone else does. Yes. So we have two other elephants that I want to talk about specifically, very briefly, not in nearly as much detail, so the ride's almost done, I promise. Mary the elephant was a 21-year-old female Asian elephant. She was born in 1894. She performed for the Sparks world-famous circus shows. And on the 12th of September in 1916, she was performing in Irwin, Tennessee, when a homeless man, who had been given the job the night before to assist as an elephant handler, his name was Red Elridge. Yep, so you can just be a random homeless man and wander in and fucking take care of these creatures. He was killed by Mary. He had been riding on her back in the show, and according to Wikipedia, these are two accounts of what happened. So, recounted by W.H. Coleman, who claimed to be a witness, Red Ulrich prodded her behind the ear with a hook after she reached down to nibble on a watermelon rind. She went into a snatched Elridge with her trunk and then threw him against a drink stand and stepped on his head, crushing it.
Oh, that's the worst.
Oh.
Yep, brutal.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Slightly more against elephants, I guess, is the Johnson City Staff recount, which was a newspaper at the time, that said, Mary collided its trunk vice-like around Elridge's body, lifted him 3 meters into the air, then dashed him with fury to the ground, and with the full force of her beastly fury is said to have sunk her giant tusks entirely through his body. The animal then trampled the dying form of Elridge as if seeking a murderous triumph, and then, with a sudden swing of her massive foot, hurled his body into the crowd.
It's very performative.
Yeah.
Very performative. Yeah. So, one way or the other, whether she fucking impaled him with her tusks or just stepped on his head, Elridge is dead. Apparently, according to accounts from the time, the crowd then chanted, "Kill the elephant, let's kill it." Yep. Rounds were fired at her, but did not kill her. The circus owner, who had been told that his circus would never be allowed back into Irwin or several nearby towns, decided to kill her publicly to save face.
Oh, that's a... yeah. Okay.
So she was taken to a railroad yard with a crowd of 2,500 people to watch her execution. She was hung by the neck from a crane twice. The first attempt, the chain snapped and she broke her hip.
Dude.
Yep.
On a scale of Tylenol crisis management to this circus, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, oh my lord.
It's fucking bad. So she died during the second attempt, and she was buried by the Tracts. A veterinarian who examined her found that she had a severely infected tooth, which, according to reports of what happened, was the precise spot that Red had prodded her.
Oh my
So,
god.
Yeah, poor Mary. Elephants can live till they're 80, by the way, and she was 21 years old. All these elephants are in their 20s.
I was going to say, Tyke was also quite young, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So they, like, their lives were short and fucking miserable and just snuffed out. We now go on to Topsy, who's another famous elephant. Yep. She is also an Asian elephant. She was 27 years old and born in 1875. And she performed for the Four-Paw Circus. She killed a spectator in 1902, and I pulled this directly from Wikipedia because it's a good description. So, a possibly drunk James Blount wandered into the menagerie tent when all the elephants were tied in a line and began teasing them in turn, offering them a bottle of whiskey. He reportedly threw sand in Topsy's face and then burnt the sensitive tip of her trunk with a lit cigar. Topsy threw Blount to the ground with her trunk and then crushed him with her head, knees, and foot. Or foot.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Yep. Newspaper reports... Yeah, right, exactly. So newspaper reports basically say that Blount's death contained what seemed to be an exaggerated amounts of Topsy's man-killing past. So, like, people started to talk about she killed up to 12 men. And then more common amounts are like, she killed 2. And even when they look into those 2 deaths, they can't be verified. There's never a record of anyone dying besides Blount. There's only these 2 incidences where basically in June of 1902, someone unloading her from a train in Kingston, New York, a spectator tried to use a stick in his hand to tickle Topsy behind the ear, because that's what you fucking do when you see an elephant. And she seized him around the waist with her trunk, hoisted him into the air, and threw him back down before being stopped by a handler. So he was injured, not dead. And then handler William Alt was involved in an incident with Topsy where he stabbed her with a pitchfork trying to get her to pull an amusement ride. So, like, basically like a horse and fucking cart.
God.
Yeah. When confronted by a police officer, Alt turned Topsy loose from her work harness and then let her run free in the street, which led to his arrest. The occurrence was attributed to his drinking. Because in December of 1902, he got drunk and rode Topsy down the streets of Coney Island and then basically tried to ride her into the police station.
Okay.
So yeah, exactly. She tried to batter her way through the station doors, according to people of the time, saying that she set up a terrific trumpeting.
Ooh.
And
nice
officers...
image.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's better, because apparently the police officers went to take refuge in the cells. Yeah.
Good.
Just fucking hide. Alright, good idea. So the circus tried to get rid of Topsy after Alt got arrested for his bullshit. He was fired, obviously, because what are you going to do with an elephant handler that's in jail? But no one would take her, so they decided to execute her.
Oh, not
Oh,
again.
God.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to publicly hang her.
What?
But,
People hanging
yeah.
all these elephants.
Yeah,
Stop
you can
it.
see pictures of this, by the way, so again,
Christ.
be careful when you Google this shit. There's a lot of very upsetting images, but I do think it's shit that we should look at and think about for next time you want to go to SeaWorld or some shit.
Yes.
But the American Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals protested against the needless cruelty. Good on them, even in 1902. Well done.
Yeah.
So instead, on January 4th of 1904, she was poisoned with cyanide and electrocuted with 6,600 volts for 10 seconds and strangled with 2 nooses for 10 minutes.
Why? What?
Is that better? Is that...
How is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
So you can watch this because the event was filmed by Edison's film company. Not Edison himself, but his film company, and you can find it
Okay.
online. I've actually had to study it this year for one of my classes.
Huh.
It's like one of the very first sort of early films that happened in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's very fucking sad.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah. Yep, these elephants are not the only ones that have died because of the circus industry or just in general us wanting to be entertained. So circus elephants have been hit by trains. There was a recent car accident in Spain where one died and a bunch were injured because there was a car accident. What the fuck is going to happen when you have elephants on the road? Mm-hmm. They've been shot to death in their cages. They rarely ever die quickly. As you can see, it took 87 bullets to kill Tyke. And obviously, we mentioned before that Mary was also shot and did not die. Yeah, I cried a lot during this story. I thought it was a fucking awful way for anyone to die, let alone an animal. But yeah, that's Tyke the elephant, Mary the elephant, and also Topsy the elephant, and many, many others. My sources are Tyke the Elephant's Last Day on Earth, which is a video by Peter, Wikipedia, a Bastille post, and also the documentary I mentioned earlier, Tyke Elephant Outlaw.
Heavy.
Yeah. Super, super sad.
But I think, as on the topic of revenge, it is important to talk about this kind of stuff, because like you've said and how we've all commented, these are smart animals. They had enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Like, they mourn, and that's something that's like very interesting in like philosophy and things like that. Is the concept of animals understanding death, and whether or not they can like employ the sort of thought behaviors that we think are just ours as human beings, and that's what makes us superior.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
No worries, my dudes. Now I'm going to be sad in the corner and listen to you guys tell me stories.
Hello, listeners. We are at the safe point. From here on out, we have Lacey and Tay's 2 stories. They do not contain animal abuse. They are safe. You can listen from here on. No worries. Enjoy.
Hi. So I actually have a funny elephant story.
Oh.
To lighten the mood.
To lighten the mood. So back in the 50s, in our small little like country hick town of 12 people or whatever, there was one big family that will remain nameless because they do listen.
Oh.
Hello.
Patterns. All right. So the patriarch of the clan, they're all having a huge, I'm not sure if they were actually milking or they were having a picnic, but they were all drunk. And he was the most drunk. And he looked on the hill and saw across the valley an elephant. And he was like, fuck, I've drank way too much. Time to drive me and the wife home with all our kids in the car. That's how they rolled back in the day.
Yup.
And he was like, he didn't tell anyone because he was like, holy shit, like I've seen an elephant. Like I need to not drink anymore. Until the call came around that an elephant had escaped from a traveling circus and people were looking for it.
Have you seen this elephant?
Have you seen this elephant? And
Have you seen this elephant?
Able to tell them sort of where the elephant was. And they got 3 tickets to go see the circus as like a thank you. But they never went. But yeah,
good,
because I think the dad was had too much PTSD from seeing an elephant.
Yeah,
and
seeing it up close would be a bit too much.
Yeah, he was done with it. Yeah, so there you go. Wow. I was thinking like, what if they didn't catch it and it was just like, we just had a fucking elephant in our valley? It would have survived.
Do you reckon what would it have eaten?
Well,
Grass out there.
hay,
Eucalyptus and
grass.
got stupid off it like the koalas do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, it's like
Koalas are
that.
shit animals.
Oh, they're shit. It's like that that urban legend, like around my way and out further, especially like Hillsville way, is there's like this urban legend that there's like these black cougars or like because apparently they escaped from a circus back in like the 70s and now there's just these massive black wild cats just roaming around the Yarra Valley.
Do you know what?
reckon
We
that's
have that
like-
too back where
Yeah.
I'm from. Yeah.
A big thing in America and in Europe as well.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Well, there's
really
like
funny.
more fucking privately owned big cats in America than there are in zoos in the world.
Carol Baskin.
Tiger King.
That's
Oh my
fucked.
god. That's fucked.
That really upset me when I watched that fucking documentary. I know it stopped being about animals after a fucking point, but like,
It got so wild so quickly and then it just kept getting wilder. It's just I wish that was one that's a documentary I wish I could like unsee and then watch again. It's so
Agreed.
funny watching people watch it for the first time.
it's such a fucking roller coaster. JD was like, I started watching it alone, and then JD
Yeah.
was like, "What the fuck is going on?" I'm like, "Okay, sit down.
We have to
I'm
start
gonna
again.
watch this from the start."
Let's take it back.
It was just fucked. Like, good lord. I loved it.
Oh gosh. Alrighty.
Tay.
Now that we've had a little bit of a comedic intervention.
Palette cleanser.
Palette cleanser. Revenge story number 2.
Yes.
Thanks to Daisy Turner, who's the daughter of the main focus of this story, we actually have this story. So she is, she died
in the day.
in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
She is a storyteller and a poet, and she favored oral history. And her father pretty much told her an entire recount of their family's history, and she wrote it all down. She's an absolute badass. There's actually like a little story she told in an interview that I read with her when she was 8. And she's person of color. And when she was 8, she was instructed to recite a poem in front of her peers at school whilst holding like a big like sewn black doll.
Oh.
And instead she thought, fuck that. And she went up on stage and she made up a poem on the spot. And she was like, mic drop, fuck you all. Like a queen and artist, we love her. So this is the story of Alec Turner. And the story might sound a little bit familiar because it kind of has some like we can cut out this pause because I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I'm leaving it in.
It has like there's some elements of this that are kind of similar to Tarantino's Django Unchained. Though I know though I know that there are other stories that is based off. This has some very similar like key points as well, which I thought was cool. Also, I could not find anything about this online. Like I found one really short Watch Mojo video and then a couple of really quick like forum posts.
Okay.
But then, thanks to the powers of being a university student, I went to my university's library database and actually found her book with all the oral history of the family. So what turned into half a page of notes turned into 3.
Right.
Because I just found all the stuff that needed to pad everything out and give context. I'm really grateful for that. So thanks, Swinburne.
Yay.
Alrighty, so we're going to start a little further back from Alec. So the earliest ancestors of the Turner family date back to the 1800s, maybe even like late 1700s. So an English woman and her merchant husband were sailing to Africa for their honeymoon from England.
Okay.
And unfortunately, things went awry, and they became shipwrecked in the Bight of Benin, which is off the coast of Ghana, allegedly due to a tornado, which is like apparently quite common in the Bight before the rainy season, which is kind of terrifying.
Oh god.
I'm just going to mention very quickly that
yeah.
already I have started to put this story to Disney's Tarzan. And that's what's happening in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here for it.
It is
like
that it is
The
yeah.
intro.
So anyway, her husband died,
Yep.
but she was saved by a chieftain's son, and since Uber wasn't a thing, she had to stay in Ghana, and she had a son with him. And this son was
was
named
the-
Alexander.
Was the chieftain's son
Yeah.
hot though? Because that's what I'm imagining.
Oh,
Obviously, they had a son
definitely.
together.
Yeah.
So like, and I was reading a bit on this because I thought for myself as well, was this just the fact that she was there and it was like kind of like, oh, well, I'm here, I guess I have to.
Hello?
But apparently, according to like the book I was reading, that like it was very like common for, okay, I've saved you, you're my responsibility now. So he like like everyone in their like immediate family and everyone else that lived like close by like really took to this woman. Like they're like, you're here now, you're part of us. It's like quite sweet actually. And yeah, so she just kind of assimilated. And they had a son named was Alexander, apparently after Alexander the Great. Now, according to Daisy, Her great-grandfather may have been a part of the Yoruba people, who are known for their pottery and sculpting, which they traded with the English. So that is why they were like, "Oh, yeah, we know where you're from. We know what's up," kind of stuff. Unfortunately, history is full of horrible shit,
Oh no.
and the slave trade of the 1800s is a part of that history. So Alexander was captured in 1820 and taken to America, where he was sold to the Jack Goulden plantation in Port Royal, Virginia.
And he would have been
this is-
mulatto, wouldn't he? They were very
Pardon?
valuable. Mulatto.
Yeah. So this was
That
along.
term's confused me. I'm sorry. I have
Yeah.
questions.
No, that's
So-
okay. Discussion.
Yeah, because it's something that like I've seen come up in old texts, and I've not bothered to Google on my own because I'm a child. What is the term and what does it mean exactly?
Okay.
My assumption is that it's a archaic term.
It is
and
incredibly
it's not
archaic.
acceptable anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, it's like a person of mixed race, but when that mixed race is white and black, especially with one parent white and one parent black.
I see. Okay. Cool.
Because even with the like the slave trade, the paler slaves were more valuable than the darker ones, basically.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a buck wild fucking thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dude.
It's
La and I recently did a course through our uni that's to do with like philosophy and reason, and it talks about like how people sort of made slave trade okay for themselves, because obviously it's fucking not when you think about it for more than 2 seconds, and it goes through sort of the mental gymnastics that a lot of fucking people went through to be like, it's fine to buy and sell people, and you're like,
no.
what? You have to do a lot to make yourself think that this is okay.
Yeah. So
But people will do it, right?
Yup.
People just like, oh, I'm going to justify this. Like, it's, no.
I'll find a way.
So, but also like we don't use the term mulatto unless it's in an historical sense, or when we like refer to the amazing rapper Mulatto, who's really really cool actually. You should find out. You should like see her shit. But yeah, it came from the Spanish mule. Like that's how fucked it is.
Oh, God.
Right? We're not. Yeah, it's not great.
No.
We don't do that.
Cool.
Thank you
Anyway.
for that history lesson. I'm
Thank you.
sorry to interrupt. I appreciate it.
That's okay.
A segment within the podcast, Lacey's History Corner.
History corner.
So the plantation was along the Rappahannock River, which is known for its oysters. Just a little bit of tidbit there, because I'm like, oh, it's known for its oysters. Amazing. It was once a peasant's food, is now considered highbrow. They're really yucky. Now, these Turner men, they're quite the charmers. So once Alexander arrived, he married a Cherokee woman named Silver Bells, also known as Rose.
Beautiful.
And she was the plantation's seamstress, so she worked on the plantation as well. And together they had a son named Alec, born 1845. So Alec is our main squeeze here.
Yep.
Alec loved his mum, who taught him the Cherokee language and how to grow plants and different herbal medicines and veggies and fruits. And she was just like cool as hell. And he adored her. So now you've got backstory. We're at Alec now.
Yep.
A little bit of family history. So due to his mother's high status as a seamstress, their cabin was closest to the main house.
Yep.
And with that came privileges. So Alec was allowed to stay with his mother while she worked, and was also allowed to interact with the kids who lived in the plantation house.
Yeah.
So his mother would make dresses for Goulden's grandchildren, mainly a girl named Zeffie, who taught Alec to read and write in secret lessons. Unfortunately, when they were discovered, Alec was horribly beaten for it.
Because it was illegal
Which-
for him.
Yes. But he's a learned young lad. English, Cherokee, reading, writing.
Very
He's-
cool.
Do more than I can.
Yeah. But despite all of that, Alec, he really enjoyed playing with the other kids. And through play, he began to notice that he was different from them. Mainly that his clothes were like really shabby and he never had any shoes, which is really sad. So upon hearing this, Rose, his mum, had sewn him a pair of red moccasins, which is really sweet. And she decorated them with like these intricate like Cherokee beadwork, like enough that she could get
Oh, gorgeous.
her hands on enough beads.
Yeah.
So I can imagine them. I don't know what they look like, but I can imagine them. They look stunning. And Alex was like so chuffed with these shoes. He fucking loved them. And he would strut about the plantation with a smile, and all the kids would call him Pompey because it was like short for pompous, like, oh, and he would like strut around. He loved them. And unfortunately, this is where Alec and Zeffie's relationship turns a little sour. So after the beating, so Rose would hide Alec's shoes whenever Goulden's wife would come to visit their cabin. Mrs. Goulden was a stone cold bitch. Despite being liked by the rest of the household, Alex was instantly on her bad side. Like, she just hated him.
Yeah.
And one day while playing in his cabin, like his home, Mrs. Goulden and Zeffie arrived to see how a new dress was coming along. And after arriving unannounced, this gave Rose no time to hide Alex's shoes. And when Mrs. Goulden saw them, she snatched them and threw them in a fire. So she was like, nah, this is not on. Fuck you. You can't have nice things.
It's very natural for an adult woman to hate a fucking child.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Bitch.
Yes. So Alec had developed a kind of like this really intense sense of right and wrong at a young age, which is fair. Like, he had to grow up obviously very quickly. He knew what it felt like to be undignified. He didn't like that. He knew what injustice was, and in turn was exceptionally good at resisting against the Gouldens. No sooner had Mrs. Goulden thrown those shoes into the flames, he was on her, biting, hitting, kicking, and screaming.
Yeah, boy.
And she fainted. She was like, oh, fuck. So she's down for the count. Rose is distraught. She thought that, they're going to take him away for sure. This is awful. I'm going to get punished. He's going to get punished. Daisy, Alex's daughter, who wrote the oral history, recalls her father telling her that though he believed that he was in the right, he took on his mother's face. The look on his mother's face wrought him with guilt for the rest of his life. Like, he felt awful about that for the rest of his days. Just really sad.
That is sad.
Yeah.
I remember disappointing my mum just with a bad grade. Fuck.
Yeah.
Now
I'm not
disappointed.
mad. I'm just disappointed. That's the baseline. So then we introduced Presley. So Presley was an overseer on the plantation who was apparently more of a tyrant than Mrs. Goulden. Now, Presley was also a slave. He was devoted to the plantation and the owner. He was exceptionally cruel to Alec, and to quote one source, made his life a living hell.
Oh, fuck.
Oof.
So no doubt due to the incident with the shoes, that's kind of was the catalyst for all of this awful stuff that he did to him. Now, there are some horrible details of cruelty in my research, and I think the worst thing is that Presley would salt the wounds he inflicted on the people he punished. Like, he would literally salt the wounds.
Fucking hell.
He was in charge of the whipping post, and so you can imagine how that all went down. Absolutely fucked. It is said that Presley's actions were what taught Alec what it meant to be enslaved. I say that quotes. That the atrocities that Presley inflicted on his fellow humans sparked the determination for freedom in Alec. So he was like, fuck this. There's got to be something better than this. I have to leave. So he worked hard and he waited. And his waiting paid off. So in 1861, the Civil War between the Confederates and the Union soldiers began. And at age 16, Alex saw his chance and he escaped the plantation to join the Union. He was like, fuck this, I'm out. Nice. And I guess because it's also like the plantations along the river, it kind of helped him in his escape.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. So he joined the 1st New Jersey Cavalry as a cook. And he saw warfare in the Battle of Bull Run. He was wounded, but he kept on fighting and he built friendships with his fellow soldiers. And he was like, I'm free, la la la. Now, the Goulden plantation was raided during 1863 of the Civil War. So while other soldiers were seeking out food and horses, Alec's cavalry also arrived. And Alec was like, I'm going to seek out revenge here.
Nice. Yep.
He was like, horses are over there, food's over there, I'll see you guys in a bit. And off he went. So Presley heard the overseer heard the troops entering the property. And he stuck his head out of the cabin and he shouted, "Who is there?" And Alec yelled back, "This is me. This is Alec. And I'm going to shoot you."
Yes.
And he did.
Oh, that's so good.
he shot Presley.
Follow through.
Right? No, none of this bullshit. Like, here's my big plan. I'm going to tell you everything in great detail. This is me. This is Alec.
Very
I'm going to shoot.
villain without the the dramatics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very Hemingway. Very simple.
Yep. Very good. Hemingway would love that.
So he shot Presley in the stomach and just let him bleed out. He's like, off you go.
Excellent.
Have a nice slow one. Right?
Slow. That is painful and slow. Did you know it can take you a couple of days to die from a gut wound?
it can take you 8 hours to die being fully like gutted, just like your guts hanging out. You
Oh
can still
no!
completely survive.
Well, kind of like, and I can imagine like the guns in the Civil War wouldn't have been like super powerful, like they not like they are today. I don't know.
I mean,
They're not like they are today, but
No.
they definitely could do a lot of damage to
Yeah.
you. Like, especially when you can't sew someone back up together with like bits of their guts like being perforated.
Ooh. Ooh. Anyway, so now in true revenge fashion, quite the happy ending for Alec, which I was actually really glad to see. So after the Civil War, he settled on a property he named Journey's End, named because he had no plans to leave once he arrived. It's really nice.
yeah.
That sounds like a Hobbit thing. That's really
Right?
sweet.
Super does. And he had a wife called Sally, and he had 13 children.
Oh,
Oh,
Very happy ending.
very happy ending.
One of which is Daisy Turner, who again is the reason this story exists. So shout the fuck out to oral history and oral storytelling.
That's
Hell yeah,
very
hell
cool.
yeah. He grew vegetables and fruits like his mother taught him to, and yeah,
That's really nice.
is yeah.
that's
So the book,
beautiful.
yeah. So the book that I read all of this in is called Daisy Turner's Kin: An African American Family Saga. So it's written by Jane Beck, but it's an oral retelling of her history. So cheers to the uni library for that one. And there's like so much that I had to like kind of leave out, but that is like the main revenge plot was that in keeping with today's theme. But there was heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of like other stuff. There was a massive chunk which was just everything that happened like in the Bight of Benin. Like there was heaps of info and just like Alec's time growing up there on the plantation. Like it's really interesting and just like so much more little bits and pieces here and there, and then heaps of stuff that happened after the Civil War as well. It's just
That's awesome.
so interesting. And the site of Journey's End is now like a historically protected site, which is really cool.
Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
Stunning.
She died
so-
when she was 104.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolute queen. Like just nothing can stop her. Absolutely amazing. There's some really cool interviews with her too. Like most of them, I couldn't find any audio ones, but there was a bunch of written ones, like a bunch of newspapers and stuff. It was really, really interesting.
That's wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. I really like because I was looking through like because I always like to go through like a quick fire round of lists of like what is like these like obscure revenge stories. I'm like this one. I think what made me most interested in it is the fact that I couldn't find anything about it online.
Yeah.
And then
Which
I
makes
found
it really hard but really exciting.
yeah, and then when I found there was a link to a JSTOR, which is one of the library databases on the whole book, I was like, I have access to that. And then it was like the floodgates opened, and I was like, yes. So I wish that it was more easily accessible because it is a really like incredible story. But if you like I said, if you can find it, An African American Family Saga by Jane Beck, get on it. It's excellent. Other sources I had were there's a thread on NeoGAF giving a short but sweet rundown of the whole story, posted by Senpai at Large, windandfoundation.org, and there was an article by John Donnelly from the LA Times that was interviewing Daisy, and then nationalhumanitycenter.org, an article by Dana Berry on theconversation.com, wiki, and brattleborohistory.com. So lots of good little sources, but the main of everything came from the actual book.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, thanks, guys.
Amazing.
That was
Yeah.
really good. I liked that.
Very compelling.
And
Yeah.
amazingly, I just found like all these links. It's in print, and you can get it from Booktopia if you're into it. Because
Stunning.
Dimmix doesn't have it. It's just checked.
Okay.
Typical.
Typical Dimmix. Okay, guys.
She's got something.
All right. So, as a lot of you know, I grew up going to a Catholic primary school.
Yes.
Where we learned all about, Jesus and stuff and all of his good shit. And what I was most interested in is like the saints because God is busy. So you need to pray to a saint who is like the head of that department, and they'll pass on your message.
I've never heard it put that way before. That's really funny.
Oh.
So
Ooh.
like, you know, and there's a saint for everything. Saint Jude was one of the ones I prayed to the most because he's the patron saint of lost causes. And I knew, even though I was really, really young, that I was a lost cause. Right? So I was always interested in the saints and that kind of thing. I'm really into that. So I found this amazing saint who honestly must have one of the best revenge stories in history. And even after all of the murder that she did, she still became a Christian, preached the word, and like, you know, it just like God forgives a lot.
I think I know who you're doing, and I
God
love
forgives
this
a
story
lot.
so much.
Okay, so
I'm
this
ready.
is Saint Olga of Kiev.
Yes! I love this. Oh, I'm so
Ooh.
excited.
I don't know what this is.
Oh, you're going to have a great time. It's
I'm
really
excited.
good. Olga's a
Okay.
badass.
Olga is a badass.
It's a good fucking name. Solid fucking name.
Solid name. Now, she's also for those who want to know, she's a saint in the Catholic Church, like, you know, proper like Roman Catholic OG, and she's also a saint in the Russian Orthodox and Eastern churches. So she does both. So she's very big in the church time. All right, so historical reference, quick thing of what was happening in the world at that time. So this is 1945. No, shit. 945. 945, okay?
Wait, 9:45.
945.
Okay.
Okay, so Olga was the princess of a loose federation of tribes that was called the Kievan Rus, right? So it's basically Belarus, Ukraine, and a lot of Russia. Huge. It was a huge, huge area.
Good for her.
So, a lot of the people there were descended from, you know, Vikings and like Slavic kind of vibes.
Ooh.
So she married Prince Igor of Kiev. Nothing really happens in her life until she sort of marries him, and then this goes down. So she marries Prince Igor. Prince Igor and her have a son called
So, you want to repeat that for me?
Shut up, man. Anyway, it's his name, Slivian, blah blah blah. Shit. No,
There's a lot of V's and L's in it.
lots of Y's when they don't need to be.
Ah,
Slatislav.
yeah.
see
Go with that.
We're gonna call him Sylvester
Okay.
for the rest of this. Okay.
Oh, now I'm just thinking about a cat who's really bad at eating birds, but okay.
Oh, I know. So, how like the Federation rolled was the biggest, I guess, tribe in the city of Kiev. You know, you paid them tribute, which is like money, goods, respect, so that, you know, if somebody came for your tribe from another empire, like the Byzantine Empire, for example, you'd have the whole army. You know, you basically paid for protection. That's how it rolled back in those days.
Oh.
So Igor's father, Rurik, who was a huge chieftain, oh God, what am I trying to say? We'll have to cut this out.
Stop again.
Every time we say this, Laura's like, no.
Sometimes I cut it out.
I'm not
Sometimes.
editing anything. All right, so
Well, look, sometimes I listen and I'm like, no, that's funny. You guys are getting
Yeah,
fucked at saying
That's
it.
fair.
And then we also annoy our listeners because they're like, just say the word. I know what word you're trying to say.
all right.
Wait, can't fault that logic. That's fine.
Okay, so his death, Igor's dad, Rurik, died in 1913. The way he died was kind of hilarious, so I'm going to mention it. he was always
Yes.
told that his favorite horse would be the death of him. So he
Oh,
was
no.
suspicious, like these were pagans, so he was superstitious. So he was like, the horse gets the best stable, like the furthest away from my room, all that kind of shit. Like,
Yeah.
it had like the best life in the whole empire, to be honest, this horse. Like, was
This
really
is a very interesting way to go about it, because I'd be like, okay, well, get rid of the horse, buy a horse, sell it to someone. Back in those days, probably eat it. I don't fucking know.
they probably
Instead, he's like, I'm going to keep it.
keep
But
it.
I'm
have
gonna,
the best
and I'm
life.
probably gonna ride it because it's my favorite,
My
and that
favourite
obviously is gonna be the way I'm gonna go out. But fuck it, horse stays.
Horse stays. So finally, when the horse did die, he came and visited the horse, and he kicked the horse to make sure it was dead. But then the snake that was living underneath the horse carcass, and in fact what had killed the horse was the snake, struck out and bit Rurik, and he died from that snake bite.
Yeah.
I'm so sad for the horse.
Yeah.
And now,
That's
So
so fucking
so
funny.
Igor descended the throne after, that happened.
Yes. The snake incident.
Yeah. So he was. There's a certain tribe called the Drevlians that hadn't up until this point paid tribute, because basically this all shit happened in the monarchy. Like, the son was really young to ascend to the throne. The Drevlians didn't feel protected from their local warlords, so they started to pay their local warlords the tribute, because they were closer and they were at that time probably a little bit more powerful and a little bit had their shit together more than the monarchy did. So Igor was like, guys, I know you haven't paid tribute for 33 years, but I really want that respect back. I'm losing face. So I'm going to go to your place and surprise you and want tribute. So you need to pay me or there's going to be an issue. So he rocks up to the Drevlians and he's like, pay me tribute, all that kind of good shit, right? I just sort of imagine it's going to be like a rap video in medieval times, right?
I like this is where you're going. I'm just straight to Game of Thrones. I'm like, yep.
But it's like season 8 Game of Thrones where Daenerys is standing outside the gates, but there's just a plain field and there's nothing fucking else because they stopped caring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
What's
You
up,
want that
fuckers?
Star Wars money now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Igor goes and he's like, give me the shit. The Drevlians are like, look, well, sure, we'll give you the things and here's all your tribute. Now fuck off back to Kiev. So on the way back, Igor is like, look, I know they paid me tribute and they said they did what they said to do, and we're all G, but I want more tribute. So he sent most of his army back to Kiev with all the goods, and he went back to the Drevlians and he's like, look guys, give me some more. So the Drevlians were like, no, excuse me. So what they did was, because he sent half of his army away and mostly all his good shit because they were trying to protect all the money, they easily overthrew what little guards he had and then decided to make an example of him. So they tied his 2 legs to 2 different birch trees that were that were like bent over. So they tied these 2, like birch trees are quite flexible.
Yeah.
So they were curved over. And then once he was all, tied to each birch tree, they let them go and he was ripped in half.
It's fucking brutal, hey.
Pagans know how to get shit done.
They do.
Oh my god.
They do indeed. So
It's
now,
like a old school drawing and quartering.
yeah, but like no horses.
Yeah, exactly.
So in half, everywhere. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the Drevlians have now been like, okay, so we've just defeated Kiev's great leader,
Yes.
and he's left behind a 3-year-old son, Sylvester, who cannot rule, and his mother, who is a princess. So they basically went from being like the underdogs to like having all the cards, right? So what they decided to do was send a delegation to Kiev to petition the princess and be like, you're now like a vulnerable widow. We know we killed your husband, by the way. But you should come and marry our Prince Mal, who is a lovely dude, even though he killed your husband. And then we can like rule like all of the lands, right?
Yep.
So
Which is a solid plan.
Solid plan. Solid plan. So Olga is like, look, this sounds really fucking good. Send a huge delegation of 20 of your best nobles and mines and things to come to my palace and we'll talk about shit. So the Drevlians are like, fuck yes, this woman is doing exactly what we want her to do, because she's acting as a regent, of course, for her son. So she's in charge right now.
Yep.
So the next day, the Drevlians return in their boat, and they were carried by Olga's guard, who carried them in their craft, like right in the boat, so they didn't touch the ground, into the Great Hall. However, when they were like, okay, Olga's going to be here, she's actually really hot. It's like the paintings make her look hot in what I've seen.
Okay.
And then she's going to be like, yeah, she's going to marry our prince. It's going to be fucking great. In the meantime, Olga had decided that revenge is really good, and she would avenge her husband. So she came out with a 4-part plan. This is part 1. So what she did, she carried them into the Great Hall. In the meantime, she'd ordered her soldiers to dig a huge ditch. So then the guards took everybody who was in the boat, including the boat, plopped them in this huge ditch, and then had them buried alive.
Oh my God.
So in the meantime, Olga contacted Prince Mal. She's like, look, this delegation, I know it was like your best minds and leaders, but they've failed to convince me to come and marry you. How about you send some more delegation?
Okay.
Great minds, great leaders.
Don't worry about why they're not talking back to you, by the way.
Yeah, no.
They're busy.
They're here, they're alive, they're definitely there.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything's fine.
How about you just send me some more? Like, these guys have tried their best. So he's like, fucking totally, and sent them another emissary.
Because Olga hot.
Olga hot.
Dude,
hot.
Olga
and owns
could
lots of
fucking
land.
get
got
it.
all that land.
She got all that land. So she's pagan at this time. She's not Christian. All right. I think if she was Christian, she'd probably do the same thing, to be honest. So second group arrives. She's like, how about you go refresh yourself in the bathhouse? And, because you've had a big journey. So they went into the bathhouse, and then Olga ordered all her servants and soldiers to burn the bathhouse down. So all of those ambassadors were burnt alive.
So we've buried, we've burned.
Yep. Buried, we've burnt.
This is dumb, but because I have read like a couple of things about Olga. There's so many times though that I've read about the boat thing, and I've been like, just get out the boat, bro. Like, you're being carried in a boat. Just get out. Yeah, it never manages to like completely explain to me like
why the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
So, basically, it's like a parade, right?
Right.
A parade
Okay.
of like, you
okay.
hear the victors, they would come, and especially in Viking culture, which these people were descended from, you'd have the chief, I'm not sure, I'm going to say chief with Vikings. He would come in the boat when they'd pillaged and plundered everything with all their shit, and they'd
Carl?
be... Yeah, Carl. How did I not know that? I should know that.
I don't know how I did.
I've been to a Viking Fire Festival, I should know that.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, so it's like a parade, like, here's our fucking
Yes.
dope-ass boat with all our shit in it. Yeah, that kind of thing. And because the ship was like a huge tool of war. So it would it's like a big war horse. You want to be showing that to the people.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
That
has
is okay.
explained so much to me.
Okay, part 3 of the plan. So Prince Mal is unaware of the fate or is unsure of the fate of all his emissaries. So this is part 3 to the plan. Olga's like, look, I've had your mates over here. I'm going to come to you. So get lots of booze, lots of women. I'll come to the city where you killed my husband. I'll weep over his grave, hold a funeral feast, but also probably marry and fuck you.
Party overall.
Right? Very, very good. So Mal is like, yes, and Olga gets her like entourage. She brought an army, right? She brought her army. And a lot of
As you do.
Drevlians attended. You know, it was a huge party, like sexy army boys from Kiev, sexy Drevlin boys from the territory, lots of mead, lots of food, great times.
It's just a really sexy time.
So, really sexy time. Olga is like, so once all of these people are really drunk, kill them. Kill them. So, this wasn't just men, this was women and children, because it was everyone.
Oh,
So,
scorched earth policy. Oh,
yep. So the primary chronicle, which is like the main thing back in the day, right? Estimates at least 5,000 Drevlians died that day.
5,000.
Cool. So she's wiped out the elite heads, all the noblemen. She's wiped out the army. So there's just one thing she's got left to do. So Olga is basically laying siege with the Kievan forces against the Drevlians, which she has killed a lot of them, but they're not all dead. You know, that is her
Not all
problem.
dead.
So she was like, look, I'm good now. I've killed a lot
Why
of
would
people.
you believe this woman?
I know. I know. So I'm good now. Like, I've had my, like, massacre, feeling good about myself. All I require is 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows from each house as a token of tribute, and then I'll fuck off. And the elders are like, or whoever's left was like, great, have all the birds. Have all the birds.
Just
right?
fucking take them.
Just take them. So many birds. So she's wiped out the army. She's wiped out, you know, everybody. All that's left is random citizens that have nothing to do with the death of her husband. Okay.
They never had any choice in
But
any
never-
of this shit.
No,
Christ.
but they must die too, as we know. So, because she got all these fucking birds, she tells her soldiers, how about you tie a burning cloth to the bird's leg, and then release the creature, which would fly home to its roost in the houses in the attics of the Drevlian city.
Yes. Fuck.
So all
That's so smart.
Shit
these
down.
birds fly back to the rooftops and things like that, and just start a huge fire. Huge. Killed everyone. And then anybody who was running out of the city were like either enslaved or just like either killed by, you know, soldiers who were not doing anything. So everyone is dead. Everyone is
Yay.
dead.
Oh.
So Olga was, you know, she won. It was great. She remained
Yes.
regent until her son was of age. So she was not only supported by the army, who had like mad respect for her because she let them do like a lot of killing, right? The people of Kiev were like, oh my God, yes.
Even if you weren't on board with it, you'd just be like, fuck it, just say yes. Because
Yeah.
we've seen what happens if you don't.
Right.
So she also made sure that this thing about tribute gathering was never done again. So it was always like you brought the tribute to the king in the place,
Yes.
Kiev. So that's the first known legal reform in Europe.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So how she became a Christian after being a Viking vengeance princess descended from mercenaries,
Yes.
she was baptized by Constantine, who was the Patriarch of Constantinople. So he was the head dude in Constantinople.
Oh yeah, Keanu Reeves. Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, right? Okay. And she was like, "Look, I know that I've done very murder, but
A lot
I
of murder.
think I have the power to convert my people to Christianity." And they were like, "We know you've done so much murder, but rock on, and we'll see how this goes." Her son wasn't super into the Christianity life, but her grandchildren were, because she taught them herself. And when her grandson Vladimir took the throne in the 981, he made Christianity the religion. So Olga ultimately succeeded where all of the Christian delegates from Constantinople failed. So she was earned the status of saint, canonized in 1547. So hundreds of years after she did the murder, and hundreds of years after she became a Christian. And she is called. She has the title of Istapul. Oh fuck. Can't pronounce it, but Russian, and it means equal to the apostles.
Oh,
And she's
pretty
only
good.
one of 5 women who've ever been honoured in such a way.
Fuck yeah.
Now,
oh yeah.
Now, because she's a saint, she's actually, to go with her origin story, the department head or the saint of widows.
Makes sense.
Ah, that's cool. That's really cool.
So,
Look, there's a lot that Igor was kind of a dick. Let's not
Yeah.
lie. He
Yeah.
got given the tribute, and then he was like, not enough.
look, I think,
And Olga
Greedy.
didn't need to kill all those kids and, harmless people who just were living in a town that happened to have a guy that murdered her husband. But it's still fucking
Yes.
awesome. Really badass.
It's really metal, isn't it?
Yeah.
ruthless
Send
pagan...
the birds
Yeah,
back to the roosts,
so smart.
flaming.
But
So
from
good.
ruthless pagan Viking princess to equal of the
Canonized
apostles
Saint.
saint. Crazy.
What a character arc, right?
Oh, I know.
Look at this character change. Ooh, we love a hero's journey.
We do.
Oh my god.
Look, honestly, even when you read the Bible, there's a lot of fucked up shit in there anyway, and Olga fits right
yeah.
in.
It does. My favorite
Slot her
one
right in
is
there.
when Noah, who was a drunk, was drunk and lying naked in their house, and his sons were like, "Let's cover Dad up because his dick is out." And then Noah's like, "Fuck you! How dare you? How dare you cover me up? I must be nude." It's great. Very, very good.
Oh
Just
Christ.
Dad, I just thought you were cold. Fuck, I could see.
Dad,
You're
nobody
cold.
wants to see your dick. Please, please cover it up.
There's
So fragile.
I can't remember who it is exactly, but there's a one about how an angel comes to a town and all the fucking dudes in the town are like, I want to fuck that angel. And so the angel hides with a good Christian family, and so the dad of the family goes, you know what? I'm not going to be able to tell these people the angel isn't here, but I can distract them. So he sends his daughters out there to get raped instead and hustles the angel out of the town. And everyone's like, good job. You're like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
Oh my god.
Like, God
Dude,
wants
when you-
sacrifices. Make those sacrifices. Not you. Make your daughters make those sacrifices for you. Thank you.
The very Old Testament. Mm-hmm. That
It's
wouldn't happen in the New
so
Testament.
there's so much wild shit. I need to.
The stories are amazing. They are. It's one of the greatest books ever written because the stories are intense.
Well, I guess that's why people get so engrossed and follow it, right? Because the stories are
Yeah.
good.
It's not boring. That's the thing.
No.
It's there's a lot, and some of it is drier than others. But a lot of the stories in the Bible are hardcore.
Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay.
All right. So those are stories of revenge.
Ah,
Stunning.
Thank you. Do you have
You got-
sources?
you got
for
Oh yes,
Source.
Olga?
guys. Okay. So Wikipedia,
We just
Ru-
need to start just
Russia.
blanket statement.
No, Russiapedia.
Oh.
I know, right? It's the tagline is "Get to know Russia better."
Oh,
I know. I think it's cute. Historycollection.com, museumhack.com, and historyanswers.co.uk.
That was really good.
Stunning.
Yeah.
I really
Thank you.
enjoyed
And there's
that.
lots
Thank
of
you.
really pretty pictures. She's a very Instagram worthy saint, so we'll definitely be chucking some
Oh, she could get it.
Oh, she
She's
can
stunning.
totally get it. Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Viking murder queen.
Viking murder queen.
Well, that was a nice one to end on, considering where we began.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once again, I apologise for what I put everyone through who
No.
did listen to my story
Just
today.
story has to be told.
But elephants are getting it. What was it? They've just released more laws according to elephant ownership and
Wonderful.
that kind of stuff. Not just here, worldwide.
Yeah, it is really nice.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear it. My
Wonderful.
bunny just yawned. Sorry, I had to stop
Oh.
and just pay attention to what he was doing.
The void is yawning. The yawning portal.
Did
Yeah,
you
I,
hear my hell beast halfway there during that?
I did.
I did. I just got an email literally minutes ago from his vet.
Oh.
He has kidney disease, unfortunately. I found
Oh.
out during COVID, which is sad. It's very sad, and but we're going to manage it, so that's okay. But his new results that he just got back is doing very well, and he is a lot healthier, so that's nice.
We love to see it.
Yay!
Yes, wonderful.
Little void bunny. So
Also,
good.
he's the most cherished rabbit I think in the entire country. So
Oh yeah,
he
the,
gonna be Gucci.
the vets wanted to steal him. Every time I've taken him, they've made that joke, and I'm starting to feel like it's a bit sinister.
Yeah. Please,
All
please
three
don't
of
take
them
him.
each time are like, I get Barnaby today. And then they start talking to him and ignoring me and going, I'm going to take you, but your mum won't like it.
Oh.
My bunny.
They start whispering.
Next episode on the Weird Sisters.
Start putting up wanted posters. Where the fuck's
Yeah.
my rabbit?
Missing pets.
Oh, that would be nice.
Anyway,
Thanks for your stories today, ladies.
You're welcome. Thank you for yours. Thank you for joining us, La. Really appreciate having you back
We're
on.
never going to forget that bird thing. That's going to be really useful.
You cut out 100% for me for all of that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Recording that I send you.
Oh god. La.
Oh, oh.
Oh.
La was
If you
here.
write. Yes.
Yeah. It would be very funny because I didn't really hear her very much if she was just the entire time commenting on things and we're just
Oh, cracking some
talking over
absolute
her.
banger jokes and we just don't hear them.
yeah.
Imagine.
She's just like, I thought I was fucking funny, but okay.
Fuck you. She's never coming back.
Oh,
No, we'll have you back whenever you like, my love.
amazing. Anything to add besides our Instagram and all of that?
Find all of our resources and cool bits at weirdsisтерspodcast.com. On our Facebook page especially, we have a bunch of Black Lives Matter movement resources that you can click on, and petitions to sign, bail funds to donate to, and that includes both in America and here in Australia. Pay the Rent is an excellent organisation,
Yep.
and there are links to that as well. Yeah, thank you for listening, guys, as always. Lovely to hear from all of you. Lovely to be back.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for putting up with our mini hiatus.
Yes.
Uni sucked.
Yes,
Uni sucked.
but we survived semester 1.
Yep.
Yay! So at the end of semester 2, I'll just cry again. Why not?
Yes,
Perfect.
wonderful.
All right.
Until next time, hags.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.